Hello everyone, this is Rangandad. This is not financial advice, just the way I'm looking at the market. It's not the pullback that I would be hoping for if you were looking on a full mean regression, mean reversion. But let's have a look at it because there's a few considerations here. We've got a bit of a complicated level. Depending on what you like to see. So we've closed back within the Gaussian channel. We haven't closed yet. We've got 3 hours to make a decision here. It kind of looks like it's finding a base on the shorter time frames. I'll get into that in a second, but at the same time, the shorter time frames, the trend is still down, even though it looks like it's trying to reverse that. So close within the Gaussian channel is not great. We did close slightly above the closure of the last pivot high, which you could kind of say is bullish. But at this stage, it is a rejection of that. But also, if you prefer simple moving averages, it looks like a rejection of the 200 simple moving average. I'm not a huge fan of simple with crypto yet. It may start becoming more relevant with the more institutional type traders and investors in crypto. That is typically what they use. So basically, whatever everyone's using is kind of tends to be the more important stuff. So potential rejection of the simple moving 200 simple moving average, potential rejection of the Gaussian channel. It has come back into the most traded volume region, which that's fairly important too. Closing above that is still relatively bullish. What you don't want to see is sort of closures in around that 62,500 mark, because it probably will push lower. At this stage too, you've also got the stochastic momentum looks like closing below the signal line again. That is important because that'll be the second close in a matter of a week. Again, it's not necessarily a given yet. Typically, you would want to see it close below the bullish control zone before you get too bearish on it. And the other thing too is I kind of like the fact that where the BBWP is at the moment. So reducing BBWP, signs of a little bit of weakness could mean that we are coming back into these key levels in here around that 60K, 6,500 mark. The 20 moving average, 20 EMA, is coming close to the 61,500 level, and that is a fairly key level as well. I think there could be a lot of support around there, but typically with the 200, the 50, the value area low, the mid band of the Gaussian channel, that sort of 60K mark is going to be my target for any downside. Caveat to all this is we still have a dull market, and a dull market that is rising, still generally rising that typically is very hard to short. So if you go too short too early, yeah, may not be fun. But based on everything that we're looking at, the market in general is still fairly buoyant. NASDAQ is still sort of closing at highs. That will be supported probably a bit more in the after hours, I'd say. Yeah, after hours is slightly higher because Micron had an earnings release that people seem to like. What is there? Oh yeah. So if you look at it in after hours, it's up to about this level. It's come straight into resistance here, which is an after hours move of about 13%. That's going to probably be bullish for semis overall, I would think. It's going to be a massive gap that'll have to be filled at some stage, but generally this was probably, I mean, shit, that's a pretty good trade off the stochastic momentum and just in general. You'd be ballsy holding anything into earnings at the moment, but that trend was definitely up. And it looks like people liked the results. So probably expect a bit more upside on NASDAQ and at least the semiconductor ETF tomorrow, which will, I think, support the market generally. Nothing super scary on S&P 500. After hours, it's up slightly by the look of that. So yeah, again, it looks like it's getting close to rolling over. Volatility's dropped slightly, has dropped below the signal line, but using volatility alone for any sort of signals is pretty tricky. It can be quite choppy. RSP, so equal weight, pull back a bit. Be looking for some support around the 176 mark, even down into that 20 moving average. But again, still bullish posturing. The only thing is the stochastic momentum has swapped over signal line, which is probably the start of a pullback. So look, overall, yesterday I was still reasonably bullish. The data today suggests the market may want to just have a pullback in the next, for the rest of this week potentially. Seasonality wise, crypto tends to do well in October as well. Bitcoin tends to do well, so keep that in mind. The pullback this week would be quite bullish, I think. Like if we were to reset the interesting XLY XLP is still sort of suggesting there's a bit of support in the market there. Regional banking still coming down. This trend line's the one that we're looking for. Based on what I went through yesterday. The ITB's coming back, so home construction's pulling back a little bit. I think they got some data last night on that. What is... Where was it? What day is it? Holy shit. Manufacturing index. I think that was it there. It was like a housing starts or something. Maybe I'm wrong about that. Dang, I could have sworn there was. Oh, maybe it was Australian data. I don't know. Anyway, maybe it was last week. I don't know. It's all merging together at the moment. But ignore what I was talking about there. But it looks like a bit of a pullback on home construction. What we want to see is home construction still trending up. If this starts to roll over in a big way and break sort of new lows, and even sort of that 200 EMA there, breaking below that would be quite nasty, I would think. Quick break, not necessarily bad, but a solid break and confirmation would potentially lead to some downside, and it's probably going to be generally a down market after that. We just go back to, let's see if it goes all the way back to 20. Yeah. Yeah, so breaking below in 2007, early 2007, sort of retested that twice, couldn't break through, and then, yeah, as soon as you made that new low there in June of 07, that was actually a pretty good signal for the overall stock market crash. So I'll keep an eye on that one. Generally, the bigger recessions and crashes will have some form of real estate component. So just keep that in mind too. This Dow Jones versus gold, that's actually a little concerning. Well, concerning in that it suggests we will get a pullback here, and probably a decent one. As we went through yesterday, breaks of this tend to signal that you might, like breaks of previous support, tend to signal a pullback in the markets. And this is a pretty solid support that occurred right at the bottom here. So be looking for turnarounds on this as well to suggest the market is actually going to go back up again. VIX will probably find some support around here, so beware of that. May get another spike up. I don't think it'll go higher than this previous one, that 23 mark, but you'd be looking for buying opportunities around the 20 level. Maybe that seems to be a pretty good level lately. Skew has come back a little bit more. So again, skew's starting to suggest that we will roll over. It's not crashing a huge amount, but yeah, bear that in mind as well. Global liquidity has dropped off a little bit in the last couple of days too. So, and it's making, well, it looks like it's actually starting to make lower highs. Not that I would really expect that to perform technically. It's just of interest and of note. So yeah, if the money's not out there, the money's not flowing from central banks, typically the market will follow that. Chinese market, geez, it opened with a big gap up and is trying to fill that gap at the moment. Big big sell-off from this high here. Somebody's taking some profits there, I would think. But that's good. I really think that this market, I'll just see what a simple moving average looks like on that. Nah, it's bigger. Yeah, if this market's going to recover, we kind of want to see breaks of that 800, I think, or breaks at this level and retests of it. And then that would be one big ass W pattern in this area. And then you'd be looking probably you'd be looking for moves somewhere into the 25, 26, if that plays out technically. Japanese market, yeah. UK market, flat. TLT's having a good pullback here. High yield. Yeah, high yield's dropping a little as well. Nothing like massive though, but the fact that it is pulling back and the markets are still reasonably flat suggests that we're probably going into a pullback. So, and that is likely going to affect Bitcoin as well. Geez, this thing just keeps going, doesn't it? It's because the 10-year is finding some support, whereas the 2-year just keeps falling. So what's that suggesting? Like a 2% rate cut within the next 2 years? Yeah, I could see that. Might actually find some support around there now. 2% in 2 years is pretty decent. Copper pulling back a little after its big day yesterday. Gold might get some resistance here. Yeah, I'd be surprised if it didn't come up and tag the 2700 mark before pulling back some more. I think we got a sell signal there. Oh no, we've got a sell signal here. Don't know what that signal is. Anyway. Oversold signal. Interesting. Huh. Silver didn't pull back as much. Enough to be more than, sorry, it did actually pull back more than gold. US oil is, yeah, look, we need US oil to form a base, I think. It doesn't look likely to do it at this point, but pulling back into this 66 level again, it's probably gonna, we may even push lower than that, but I guess into a US, into a US election, oil pulling back's probably not a huge surprise. Yeah. Did actually pull back in and find support right around the last election as well. I think, yeah, $60 mark is probably the next target on oil if it does break this level, does break the 65 level. Just to me, that means I don't think we're close to market crash yet. Dixie, Geez, Dixie's all over the show at this level. That parity, you kind of would expect the parity level to be have a fair bit of interest in both directions. Provides a bit of support and resistance around this level. I don't think it's done to the downside yet, though. Geez, it's choppy on the stochastic momentum. It's not often you get that choppy. Aussie dollar's pulling back a little bit. Japanese yen is pulling back a little bit as well. Just looking to see if they've got any key levels. So the yen's probably got a little bit more to pull back. Have a look at the euro. Euro a little bit more. So both the yen and the euro pull back. Dixie probably will go up a little bit. But again, whether it's going to clear these sort of levels, I doubt it. Yeah, global liquidity's kept pulling back. Have we got more data on these yet? What's that? June. Percentage of stocks above the 50-day moving average is pulling back. So yeah, maybe this is a precursor as well to a larger pullback on the S&P 500 and the Nasdaq. So I'll just go back up. Where would I expect the pullback to come to? Looking at the daily, you're expecting it to come back into this sort of region in here, I think. I'd be expecting something in there. Just based on this trend. Now, the interesting thing here is this trend looks like it's weakening. And if we did pull back into this, then it may actually be a precursor to a rollover. Not calling that by any means at the moment, but if we don't sort of pull back in there and then go, which that would be very bullish and could definitely happen. So back into 5,600 on the S&P 500, that would buck this trend of sort of what I'm trying to get at is the height of these runs is reducing each time. Typically, if you see another one that's shorter again, you're looking at very much a weakening market. And yeah, obviously, if you look at it on macro sort of levels, that was definitely a big run without much pullback. So it's sort of, we can still look at this as what we call late cycle investing. I wonder what that's reduced by each time. So we go 27% run up. Let's call it 28. 13%. 6%. So it's basically halved each time so far there. 5%, 6%, something like that. So we kind of need a decent run. Do we get something like this from 2023, end of 2023 till March 24? Don't know. Could do after the election. Everything settles down and the market decides whether it likes the result or not. But certainly not holding out hope for that. At the moment, trend is still up, but it looks like the trend is weakening. So just that is worth keeping in mind. We still could pull back into this area and just sort of at least wick into that area and then go. The 50 EMA is probably going to be pretty close to this trend line anyway by the time the price gets back down there. So I think that is still a pretty solid trend line to be looking to buy off. Just depends if we get a black swan or not. All right. Oh, I should have left that. I'll leave that box in there. I think that's a pretty reasonable target. Sorry, throat's a bit dodgy this morning. Okay, so let's go to a shorter time frame Bitcoin. Got a bit of a channel forming. Well, formed, not forming. That's a pretty solid channel there. The bottom of it anyway. Yeah. Until proven otherwise, it seems like it wants to stay in this channel. We do have some key levels to get through, so that's that. I've forgotten what color that is, but that line there, that blue-ish line, needs to break through that. That's the 50, and then you got the 200 to break through. We are at the top side of a 20 Bollinger Band. Breaking above that would be quite bullish as well. Typically, for this to fully turn around, though, you want to see sort of the Bollingers start to really transition to the upside, along with a break above and a retest. So we kind of had the retest. If it moves up and gets through these EMAs here and stays above that Bollinger, that would be quite bullish. Okay. I mainly use the short period, one standard deviation Bollinger Bands, just to see where the trend is going. All right. There's another trend line here, which that's supposedly AI, but it's a nearest neighbor, basically machine learning type trend line. Typically, breaking above that and retesting it is normally pretty good as well. If you get Bollinger Bands in the same direction as that, it's typically quite bullish as well. If you're above the Bollingers and you've got that trend line in your favor, then you can go on pretty decent runs. I am long at the moment. I did add to it down here this morning. I do have a short that's sort of covering just in case we do pull back, but it's only a third of the long position that I'm in at the moment. I think my average buy-in for the longs is right around this level, actually. Yeah, about, what's that, 63,523. So we need to be properly in the money. We need to be breaking above that 200 EMA. But I'm more than happy to hold on to the short for the moment because there is still quite a bit of liquidity to the downside. I don't know whether it'll come to it now, but down into that 62K mark is still very much a possibility. Now, if we do that, based on the channel that we got, what would that look like? It would probably look like a rejection off these levels, break below here, probably down into the 62,500, just based on the length of these other moves, and then potentially pull back up, retest this channel. If we go deeper on the break of this channel and go straight into the 61.5, then I'd expect that to be a fairly short-lived pullback. But once we're into that level, I think it'll go further. So I think it'll get down into the 60K mark. So I'm holding that short on the premise that we may see 60K again before we break to all-time highs, but it's only a small position. I'll sort of be taking profit on it once it gets down there, and then essentially getting out of it if I see the market turn around, and then just riding the long, potentially adding a little bit to my long at the same time. The long that I added down here, I'll probably, if I see this reversing around that 200 EMA, I'll actually take that off so that I've got a little bit more cash to spend once it does drop. It'll still be, the long will still be the main trade. But, you know, just trying to make some money on these, the bounces basically at the same time. Sol's kind of not doing much. Don't worry about these things. This is for something that I'm working on at the moment. Yeah, it's not like pull back into these levels. If we break through the mid band of these Bollinger Bands and the 50 and the 200, then it should be quite bullish, just because they have provided resistance on the way down. But could be a bit more chop and sideways. It could be a pullback. I think technically I've probably switched to pullback. At this stage. Sorry, excuse me. Oh, God. Still got cough and a bit of phlegm from something I caught while I was on holidays. So yeah, pullback in the market, would probably see pullback in Bitcoin, which looks increasingly likely, unless the market just really likes some sort of news that comes out. If we go to CoinAnk, now there is quite a few orders below compared to what's above. This order block here might be of interest, so it might break up into that 63,700 before pulling back. That would kind of be a fake out if it did pull back from there, similar to what this is. Am I expecting that? Not really. Entirely possible though. So shorter time frames are kind of your friend. You want to be looking at the 5 and 15 minute if you're day trading it. This does kind of look like a W pattern that's forming here on the 5 minute. I kind of missed it on this one, but if you look at the 5 minute, it does come up a bit higher there, pulls back to come up, and now we've had a bit of a pullback into that level, and it looks like it's moving away from that. So, but yeah, the 5 minute also has the same sort of resistance at the same sort of levels with that 200 EMA there, 63,600-ish. So just something to keep in mind. It does have a bit to go still if it wants to keep going to the upside. And this level here did pull back quite a way in terms of a lot of these sort of momentum style indicators that I look at. So yeah, it's shorter time frames are bullish at the moment. Yeah, just keep that in mind, but they will get to a point where they might roll over some way through the middle of today. I think we've found the bottom for this particular day with a couple of hours left. So yeah, not getting a huge gauge apart from to say the overall market looks like it's weaker, and that may just cause the pullback. So be looking out around that 60,000 mark for support. Again, I think it'll happen relatively quickly when it does. So it might only be sort of the rest of this week. The other thing too is on the weekly, if we do close back down here somewhere again on the weekly, that's not particularly great. The trend is kind of up on the weekly at the moment still, but realistically, if you're looking for new all-time highs, you kind of want to be closing up here on the weekly. A pullback into here before then pushing up would be probably even better in my opinion. But it's the next week or two, finding support by the end of this week is pretty important, I think, and support on sort of the 15-minute and the 1 hour timeframes. If we don't do that, then it may actually come down further. But you know, I'm sort of undecided, just like this weekly candle at the moment. Wait for the price action. I am still obviously more bullish than bearish, but I have covered to the downside as well. All right. That will do me for today.